Gearbox, I think I speak for everyone when I say, what the hell was this story? It's no secret that many aspects of Borderlands 3's story was bad, especially when compared to 2. But if there's one thing that almost everyone can agree on, is that one of the worst parts of this story was the character of Ava. I have not seen a character this hated on since Delphine from Skyrim. The only person who I've ever heard say anything nice about her was when my friend told me he liked the voice actress. So that doesn't even really count. It's pretty obvious to those who have played the game why Ava is this hated. So I want to see if we can change all that. Can we create a compelling and maybe even loved character out of Ava without really changing anything else from the story? Well, let's find out. Spoilers for the main story here on out. Now hear me out when I say this. I think Ava's first scene and interaction with the player should stay pretty much the same. Yeah, sure, she's a little cringy here and kinda even comes off like she's trying too hard to be cool, but one, that's literally every teenager ever, myself included when I was that age, and two, this is the most surface level interaction with her. We're just establishing what type of character she is initially. So good job, Gearbox, you actually got the first part right. I just wish I could say the same for the rest of it. I think if I were to change anything at all is maybe have Maya, her mentor, lecture Ava for trying to fight alongside us instead of getting help or just taking shelter from the attack. It doesn't have to be anything super dramatic. Maya should honestly sound more annoyed than angry to kind of imply that she's dealt with this before, Ava having a problem with authority. Now let's work on her backstory. In the original game, Ava had this side mission where you needed to go and retrieve her things scattered across the map. It's quickly revealed that one of the enemies stole her diary, and he proceeds to read it over the radio comms while Ava acts embarrassed but tries to play the whole tough girl act and pretend none of it's real. The big issue with this mission is it's trying to do two things at once. It tries to establish Ava's backstory, showing us how bad her life was before she met Maya. Also, we, as the player, can sympathize with her and care for her more. But the other thing it tries to do is make us laugh with what I can assume is Gearbox trying to be edgy? I don't really know. They say fart cave like 2 or 3 times and think it's the most hilarious thing ever.
This chick lived in a fart cave! She lost everything!
The humor is just so boring and leaned into way too much that it not only fails that, but also fails to make me care for Ava as a character because the game refuses to take it seriously. So here's how we're going to change that. The first thing I'm going to do is change the diary to an audio log diary, so that we can actually hear the emotion in Ava's voice with each entry for her backstory. We could still have the commander dude that took the diary chime in every now and then, but should be used sparingly. The other thing I would change is not have present-day Ava speak over the radio to try and brush off the whole thing. At least, not at first. So, the first entry can be about how she just lost her family. She should sound a bit younger than she currently does, and you can hear her struggling to cry through her words. You can even have the commander chime in after the log finishes, laughing and saying something like, "Dead parents will never not be funny." And that's it. Nothing too overdrawn, simple, dark humor that makes the player already hate him. The second entry will be about her living alone as an orphan. Maybe she says something like,
Day 47. I found an empty part of the sewers that weren't as flooded. I even made friends with one of the rats. Well, I mean, she still bites at me like the others, but it was a lot less frequently. I even named her...
And then the commander can just cut that off by saying something like, "Boring. What else we got?" Third entry will be about how she met a captain of a cargo spaceship that has agreed to take her in. She'll sound much more relieved and happy, as if she's found someone she can finally trust. She should also sound pretty much the same as her current self now. It's at this point I'd probably have Ava come in over the radio, kinda implying that she really wasn't listening or paying attention before. She could say something like,
Wait, is he broadcasting my diary? Vault Hunter, find him.
The fourth and last entry will be about how Ava stole an escape pod and some money from the captain she met on the previous entry. Her voice should sound scared and stressed to imply something happened between the two entries to change the relationship. Ava in the present day can try to explain herself, but it'll get cut off by the captain, saying he found a key inside the diary. Anyways, the mission will end the same way, killing the commander, getting the loot, yada yada yada. As you go to return Ava's stuff back to her, she says something like,
Listen, just forget what you heard, okay? I was exaggerating. Yeah, that's it. It just... So, yeah.
All in all, I think it's a much better way of presenting Ava's backstory so the character can sympathize with her, which is very important because of how big of a role she plays in the story. Speaking of which, and seriously last chance for spoilers, let's talk about how we're gonna fix Ava when it comes to dealing with... As much as I would love to retcon this whole death, that's not what I'm doing in this video. I'm trying to keep as much of the story intact as I can while only changing Ava's character. So yes, Maya still dies in this rewrite. The actual scene can play out pretty much the same way, with Maya arguing with Ava, then Ava getting annoyed, then claiming to the twins how she's gonna be a siren, and then of course, Maya dies, Ava's left shocked. When it comes to Maya's funeral, again, I'm not going to change any of the dialogue, no matter how much I don't like it, but two things I will change are, one, I want to make this a pre-rendered cutscene rather than having it all be in-game, just so we can see more emotion from the characters, and two, Ava won't be at the funeral. Instead, Lilith will go looking for her and find Ava in her room, reading what looks like one of Maya's old books. Lilith will ask if Ava is alright, saying she missed the funeral, and Ava will get really annoyed and tell her to stop saying Maya's dead when it's not the case. This, obviously, confuses Lilith, and when she pushes further on it, Ava will claim that Maya dying was actually just a siren trick, and she's looking for the answer on how to find her in the ancient books about sirens that Maya had. Maybe Lilith pushes on it a bit more, insisting that Maya's dead, but either way, Ava will get angry and tell Lilith to leave. The scene ends with the camera panning out while we hear Ava very quietly say,
It has to be a trick.
So just to clarify, no, I'm not bringing Maya back. This is merely just a turning point for Ava's character as she goes into denial about the whole thing. And for the next couple hours or so of the game, this will pretty much be Ava's mindset. All the way up to... So before going to Pandora to fight Troy, Ava will demand to Lilith that they need to go back to Athenas, the planet you originally met her on. She will claim she needs more books about the sirens that they have stored there. Of course, Lilith will argue back, saying that Troy and Tyreen have to be stopped before they open the vault, which could happen at any moment now. Ava will push back, saying there's no way they can do it without Maya. So Ava needs to figure out how the siren trick she used earlier worked to bring her back. The two will go back and forth for a bit until Lilith, in the heat of the moment, will just outright say,
Maya is dead, and you have to accept that.
Ava goes quiet for a moment, before falling to her knees as we see a few tears fall onto the floor. She'll whisper,
She can't be. Because if she really is, then it means it actually is all my fault.
Lilith kneels down and says, I know the feeling. I knew this guy once. He could be an idiot sometimes. But I always thought he was invincible, that nothing could ever hurt him. Until one day, I saw a bullet go straight through his heart. Ava looks up. She's still crying but has a look on her face as if for the first time, someone understands what she's going through. Lilith continues saying, Ava, I know what you want. It's what I've wanted for so long. But siren or not, we can't change the past. For a moment, the two stare at each other, and then Ava practically jumps into Lilith's arms, hugging her while saying,
I miss her so much.
So do I, kid. So do I.
What do we do now?
Lilith stands up as she offers a hand to Ava. We finish the fight. Now, after defeating Troy, we see a blue energy wave flow out from him, and it kind of moves across the area, heading towards Ava where it surrounds her. It almost looks like it's hugging her, which is when Ava, who gets teary-eyed, will smile and softly say,
Maya.
After that, we see her arm glow blue, signifying that the power has been transferred to her, in which Lilith will say, I guess Maya had a siren trick after all. Now, except for the final scene, I think the rest of the stuff with Ava in the main story can play out the same. Unless I'm forgetting a big scene, then let me know in the comments. Because in the main game, the rest of the stuff was mainly just about Ava using and getting used to her new siren powers. And the main reason I really didn't like it was just because it didn't feel earned for her character in my opinion. So with that being said, let's skip to the final scene. Just like in the original, after you defeat Tyreen, Lilith will realize what she has to do in order to save everyone. Meaning she sacrifices herself to close the Great Vault. There are just two things I'm going to change with this scene. One, Lilith does not make Ava the new leader of Sanctuary. Man, that does not even feel earned even with this new rewrite. And if Lilith really wanted another siren who has a ton of experience and knowledge, bro, Tanis is literally right there. Anyways, in this version, all she says is something vague like, take care of things while I'm gone, kid. The last change I want to make is the final conversation between Ava and Tanis, and it'll play out something like this.
What is she doing? She's closing the portal. What? But that will kill her. She knows. Why on earth would she do that?
We see Ava give a bittersweet smile as she says,
She's finishing the fight.
It's no secret that Borderlands 3's story wasn't good. And of course, Ava's character was not the only problem. Far from it. But I think the reason Ava gets more hate than anything else is because of how the game tries to paint her as this cool, rebellious, badass character. But in reality, most people see her as annoying and someone who doesn't change from their mistakes, while being rewarded all the same. I also think that everyone knew it was going to be hard to top Handsome Jack from 2, so no one was expecting the best villains ever. But when it comes to Ava's role, funny enough, they already had a quirky teenage girl in the series that everyone loved, yet for some reason was sidelined. So Gearbox, if you're watching this, I'll leave you with one final message. No one is expecting you to top your best, but we at least hope you'll never be lower than your worst.